So I'm still in Iceland and in the Western Fjords, which is obviously the northwest of the country. I've been in Iceland now a couple of weeks, just over 2 weeks. I've got 4 days to go, and I made base up here. I just wanted to come somewhere a little bit quieter, a little bit not remote, because I don't think anywhere in Iceland is now completely remote. But I just want to get off at beaten track a little bit, so came up here, made base, took the panniers off, and headed out for the day. There's about 120 kilometre road that runs to the north of the town. It's a dead end road, really. I didn't think there was anything at the end of it, but I thought I'd go off and explore it and see what I find. You'll see there is a mismatch of footage on here. Some days I've got panniers and some days I haven't, and that's because the first day I rode up, my camera failed halfway along, so I went back up the next day, and on that day I loaded up all my gear. But yeah, it's just turn off the main road that goes west and keep on riding, really. It's interesting, you come across these pot pots along the way, these thermally heated spas, really. You pay 500 krona, which is about £4, and sitting there for as long as you want, really. Just look out at the sea. I've never really stopped in any. I'm not a very good traveller, if I'm honest. I like to keep moving, I like to keep the wheels turning. I knew if I stripped off and got into an hot pot, I had 5 minutes later on the board and wanted to carry on. So I just carried on riding, really, and I just put the camera down and shoot a bit of footage and ride a little bit further and see where I end up. The road was pretty good up here. It's you could come up here on anything, any bike, any car, really. Well, plenty of rental cars still came up here, but the traffic's definitely slow up in this part of Iceland. There's no tour buses, there's no organised trips up here. It's heading for the Icelandic wilderness. Yeah, I just set my tripod up, and then have to go back and get my camera, which sometimes a bit of a trek. Just take a bit of a picnic, some brie and and a baguette. The brie is really cheap out here, actually. It's sort of odd, cheapest cheese in Iceland, brie. And then crack on. Just no more to say other than it's great riding. This bit really reminds me of Applecross, the past crossing in Scotland. Mixture of weather, pretty good though. I mean, you get showers. What you find in Iceland, you get quite a few showers. You never get continuous torrential rain, especially like in summer. You just get showers. And after about 80 kilometres, 90 kilometres or so, you get to this place called Djupavik, and it's an old herring factory. Apparently, herring was a huge industry maybe 80 odd years ago. And they built this huge factory. It was apparently one of the biggest concrete structures in the world at one point. And then the herring just vanished, overfished the stock, or the fish went elsewhere. And so this old building, this old industry just lies abandoned at the foot of this waterfall. There's a few other houses and things there. There's a guest house and things. And it all looks abandoned. It doesn't look like there's anything happening inside this place. But then, and there's no big signs either. There's nothing to say, please come on in and go and have a look around. Just go up these stairs and there's this art installation. And I'm not overly into art and things like that, but I think it was a context, the location and riding up that sort of remote road, coming across this abandoned warehouse, abandoned factory, and then going inside, and there's this really cool artwork, and apparently it's a mixture of artists from all over the world, and they all submit their stuff, and whoever runs this place, and there's no sign of anyone running it. There was no admission desk or guide or anything. And then they just display it all. And this was one of the most interesting. It was a lady who'd had cancer, now recovered, and this was a pile of all her medication and her paperwork. And then on the walls was the pictures from treatment and diagnosis, and I guess her recovery as well. So I thought that was really cool. That was a really good piece of art. We don't have much art in Mansfield, so this is quite a break from the norm. And these arrows pointed upstairs. I'm like, what's upstairs? It's curiosity, really, and just an unfathomable place. But it's quite nice. I'm glad I found it, because I think what I realised in Iceland, it's because it's such as a saturation of tourism. It's hard to find Iceland. It's hard to find Icelandic people and elements of their culture or history, because everything's been taken over by tourism. I'm not saying that necessarily in a bad way, but that's just the way the island's gone. Tourism seems to be the main industry. So to find this little enclave of oddness, weirdness, really cool. And obviously there is a nod to visitors and tourists. And every Friday it looks like they have this fish project where you just sign up and you come along and you take part in cooking fish, and then sit around and I guess eat it, and cook with strangers, eat with friends. Yeah, just a very odd little place. And if you just see out this window, it was right at the foot of this beautiful waterfall. It always makes you wonder why build this factory there? Why in that location? Why so remote? Why so far from anywhere? Why not in Holmavik, which you've already got a port? And then this was another favourite bit. It's all the abandoned houses of Iceland somebody had gone around and photographed. Because you will see, you'll be riding through the countryside, and there's just houses dotted around, and you don't know if they're abandoned or not. And that collection suggests that most are. Housing stock is not that old in Iceland. Most of it seems less than 100 years old. Maybe it's the weather, maybe it's building standards. I don't know. Cool little find this. I just want to hang fire and show you what's outside this other window. There's a bit more riding, so if anybody's getting bored of museums and photography, then there is a bit more riding to come. And they were photos by a Canadian lady who lives right at the top, and that she was contrasting the fishing industries in northern Canada to Iceland through her portraits. Yeah, wind's really picking up here. I don't know if you can hear it. Yeah, just a little village out there, a little community. There's a hotel and a cafe, and the road up to that place isn't open all year round, so I don't know what those people do, whether they still live there in the winter. I can't imagine. I imagine it's a bleak place. I mean, Iceland can be a bleak place in summer, let alone winter. And then this big concrete storage facilities, and I'm assuming it's where the herring was stored, alive or dead. I'm not entirely sure. There's no signs up. There's no information boards. There's nothing, and I like that. It keeps it feels a bit more authentic. And then last but not least, the last room you can go into, this spider's web of knitting. And so some artist has knitted all these funnels and dropped some rings into them and tied them to the ceiling. But surreal little place. I met an American couple who they seemed a bit wary of me, but I said, look, you really must check out the inside of this factory, and they were really reluctant, but I later saw them and I think they were glad they went in. As you would be. I mean, how can you not be a little bit thrilled about seeing something as random as that? And then I ploughed on, carried on going, headed towards Norðursfjörður and the end of the road. Just cracked on, and then came into surprising, really, a little cafe right at the top. Again, people live up here. There's farms, there's a petrol station, there's some more of those thermal hot pots. And then just in this cafe, I was going to get a piece of cake, but it was £8 or maybe £9. I just had a coffee with a free refill, and this lady gave me a map and just of the local area, of that little part of Iceland. She explained that they get a lot less overseas tourists up there. It's a lot more local Icelandic tourists. Quite interesting, and told me about another herring factory that were closed down further north, so up a dirt bumpy trail. So thought I'd head up there. A bit lonely out here, but always a bit anxious when you're riding alone and there's nobody else around. thoughts of what if you get punctures, what if you break down, what if you fall off, blah blah blah. But I think that's sort of kind of part of the thrill, isn't it, of just getting on a bike and then seeing where you end up. And this other herring factory, which apparently was built right at the peak of the boom, and then as soon as it was finished, the boom it vanished. So the factory stood empty and the road carried on. I was told there was a waterfall right at the end of it, so I thought, well, I'll carry on. And met some friends, some sheep. I think that's what the farms do out here. They graze sheep. Again, much like Scotland, so much of Iceland's given over to sheep grazing, and then finally the road gets to that place. You can't go any further. It's not the very top of Iceland, but it's as far north as you can get on this side of the island. There did used to be communities even further north that you used to have to take boats to, but I think they've since been abandoned for their own sanity, I imagine. I imagine it's a very tough existence out here. But yeah, there's a few houses there. One where it serves as a campsite, and other as a guest house. So there's people there. And I think they carried all that material, all those building materials, all the way up that bumpy old trail. Madness, really. But yeah, they've done it. So I thought about camping up there. I got all my stuff to camp. I don't know. The day was still young. It was about 7 p.m. or so. So I thought I'll crack back down and camp further south. Yeah. This clip goes on a little bit longer than I thought. Sorry about this. On the way back, I sat and finished me cheese and cheese and there was no and. It was just a cheese sandwich, a brie sandwich. Rode all the way back down to Holmavik, put up tent, and then had a Icelandic traditional dish of hamburger and fries, which is what all the petrol stations seem to serve. That, hot dogs, and sometimes pizza slices. That's it. Holmavik. Good basing point for going north or west. But in the 4 days I have left, I'm going to go back east and catch my ferry out. Chips at the end.